Awesome. Looks like we are finally live.
We
Thank you so
are.
much, everyone, for your patience. We having technical difficulties this day and age, being online and having so much stuff online. And it seems like we have all kinds of issues with getting live and Zooms and you name it. Anyway, I want to welcome all of you. Hello, tribe. Thank God it's Friday. I don't know about any of you, but ready for the weekend. And I am so excited to bring you this Facebook Live today because we have an amazing guest and who I absolutely love and adore. And he's one of my best friends. And I am just so honored to have you and your beautiful bride in my life, and for us to be doing life together and be part of my life team, which we talk about all the time. And so I'm just honored to have Tah Whitty here.
Well, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Much appreciated.
Yes, yes, yes. So we are going to get into some juicy stuff today because, lots of stuff going on in the world, lots of craziness, lots of fear, lots of emotion, shame, guilt, everything that's going on right now. And a lot of
all
you may.
Of the things.
Yeah, I did a live with Tah around the beginning of the whole COVID-19 thing happening. We talked a lot about shame and guilt and how that manifests in your physiology. And he's an expert on this. And so, so we're going to get into all of those juicy topics today: racism, sexism, all the isms.
All the isms, yeah.
All the isms. Anyway, so super, super excited to have you here. I'm going to do a real quick rundown Tah's bio so you guys know why you're hearing this man speak. He is the host of Mentor in the Mirror podcast with his partner, and he is so in love with people, and I have witnessed this firsthand. After 28 years in medicine, 23 years in the ER, Tah decided to leave emergency medicine behind to keep people out of the hospital. He's a Brooklyn native, and he combines a unique blend of personal and professional experience in health, fitness, power plants like ayahuasca, psilocybin, San Pedro, dozens more from various lineages, tribes, and curanderos to elevate the lives of his clients. And I can tell you, without a doubt, he has made an incredible impact in my life and in Keith's. And he and his partner believe that biohacking is really cool, but biointegration is key. And they are committed to experiences that invigorate their clients, deepening their connections and elevating their purpose. And I can attest to that. So.
Yes, thank you for the wonderful introduction. I'm just going to turn my ceiling fan off because it's making a little bit of noise. 1 second.
No problema.
All right. Wanted to make sure that we don't have any interruptions with the electronic stuff in the background. So
if you guys are joining us, hop in, say hello, tell us where you are watching from. Hey Frank, hey Janet, thank you for joining us, and love to call you guys out. But tell us where you're watching us from, and if you have questions, please put them in the comments, and I'll make sure that Mr. Whitty answers those questions, and I'll let him know any comments that you guys might have. And so one of the things that actually I would like for you to just kind of give a little summary synopsis right now of your perspective of what's going on currently with what you're seeing around the racism conversation very specifically.
Okay, well, there's a lot of specific and a lot of general stuff that's going on. Racism is something that I've been dealing with my entire life. I associate myself as a Black person. I was raised as a Black person in America. I do not know any other culture as far as my upbringing is concerned. It's always given me some issues with other people because my skin is light. So there has been a discriminatory factor from people who are lighter than me, people who are darker than me, people who have different shaped eyes than me, different hair textures than me. And so I've been able to witness racism from a very, very interesting lens. And so the conversation that's been going on currently since the murder of George Floyd is there's a lot of anti-racism sentiment that is being brought to the surface. This has been going on for quite some time in my world, and there are a lot of people that associate as white that have been coming to me because they're a little lost in this situation. They're a little lost in the storm. They don't know how to connect. They don't know how to speak about stuff. They're afraid of being called racist. They're afraid of not speaking up and defending non-white folks. And it's causing a lot of confusion. So whereas there's a lot of there's a lot of inequality that's been going on for a long time that people are now doing a lot of boycotting, a lot of speaking up, a lot of activating on the situation. And this has been going on for a long time, and now white people are really starting to come in mass. And so there's been a lot of witch hunts. There's been a lot of crucifixions. There's been a lot of throwing people under the bus, and a lot of finger pointing as far as being called racist. And it's been causing a lot of disruption in people's physical bodies, which has been causing a lot of stir. People's businesses have also been disrupted. There's a lot of people trying to put other people under because they may be speaking in spaces that are racially insensitive, or they may be speaking in spaces of oblivion with stuff that has a racist undertone, racist sentimentation. That sentimentation, is that even a word? Racist sentiment, right? Sentimentation, right? I'm making shit up. So there's a lot of that's been going on, and it's been causing a lot of confusion and a lot of uproar in people's homes, in people's personal situations. It's been activating shame a lot. And that takes it back to what we were talking about months ago when we were talking about shame on that live that we did before. This is very much a physiological phenomenon. And there's been this fine line between understanding what racism is and calling people racists. And that has been something that's been causing a lot of calamity with people. And there's been this thing where people are being called racists, and it's a permanent diagnosis, and people are not given a chance to revamp themselves or even bring awareness into themselves around the dynamics that they're performing in, or the things that they may have said that have been insensitive or flat out hard swing racist, that they don't even realize because they've been brought up in a space where there's privilege, where they've never had to experience the foot of racism on their head squeezing down. So when people are unaware of these things being brought to awareness is, I believe, is the key to this. Not throwing people under the bus, killing them, destroying their businesses, and diagnosing them as infinitely racist. And so when we bring awareness to people of how they are performing within the paradigms of racism, things can shift. And that's what I'm seeing a lot of. I'm seeing a lot of people not knowing what direction to go in. They have been what Cole and I call rated R. And if you've been rated as a racist, or you are afraid of being rated as a racist, there's a it's a very delicate space, because your finances can be threatened if you're a business owner. Your well-being can be threatened if you're in a neighborhood with people and you're being called a racist. You may not feel safe with your kids. All of these things can be very daunting, and they can be and they can cause calamity inside the body. When we talk about stressors, when we talk about getting the body aligned with everything in your life, when these things start to happen, it can become very, very dangerous.
Thank you so much for that, because I just trying to kind of set the tone and kind of set the table here, as so to speak, to let everybody know. One of the things that I have witnessed, particularly with Mr. Whitty, is he is probably one of the most open people that I've ever met, where he welcomes all of who you are authentically, and that includes all of your beliefs, everything that you say, how you feel, whatever you're thinking. There's absolutely zero judgment. I have watched him literally face absolute racism, and him be so kind, so compassionate, and so loving to that person. and try to understand where they're coming from and why they're thinking the way that they are, and trying to help them. And that's one of the reasons why we immediately turned to Tah when we were found to be in this situation ourselves. And we wanted guidance. We wanted to know what we were, what we needed to do. And so you are talking about being rated R, and this is actually your program.
Yep.
And so you kind of already said what it stands for, but who is that program for?
Well, rated R it's designed for white people who have been under the attack by other white people and other races, but specifically for white people who have been under attack by white people by being called racist, and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to speak up. They don't know how to speak for themselves, and they're coming into a space of disempowerment. And if we're going to move from space A to space B, we have to all be empowered as individuals. And to disempower people is another form of exclusivity. And when we're working in a space where we're talking about putting racism to bed, it took a long time for it to get here. It's going to take a while for it to get put to bed. There has to be a space of inclusivity. And that means that people have to be able to bring their dialogue to the table and know how to bring it to the table and still be heard. Because if you activate, like if you come to the table and you speak in a fashion to people that do not identify themselves as being white, and you speak in a fashion that causes their nervous system to be alarmed, the dialogue's not going to happen, because they're going to be alert all the time. They're going to be on guard or offended or whatever. So being able to know how to bring your dialogue authentically to the situation, and keeping in mind that you may be setting somebody off, is really, really important. It's important in your dialogue, in your day-to-day speech. It's important in your situations with your business. It's important with how you raise your children. And this is really, really important to understand, is we program things into our children at a very, very young age, and they grow up in oblivion, not knowing, because this is the standard that they grew up in. So we've grown up in a land, and I'm not exempt from this. None of us are. We've all grown up in standards where we believe something is right because it's what we've always known. And until we know something different, we can't unhinge that. So being able to bring all of this dialogue to the table is really, really important. And so the program that we've designed is around helping white people to first have an awareness around the dialogue of racism, and that racism actually exists, and that even if a person is not affected directly by it, there are other people affected by it. So it actually does exist, whether it's seen as imaginary or not. It's like saying, oh yeah, poverty doesn't exist because I don't experience it. That's nonsense. So we have to first be able to have that awareness, and once you have that awareness, you can consider things. How did I get here? How did these people get here? Why are they performing that way? If slavery ended 150, 200 years ago, why are we still going through all this? Racism is gone. And let's consider all of the factors and bring this stuff to the surface. When you consider all those things, you then can validate your truth and another person's truth. Everybody's truth is valid to that individual. And when you can bring that to the table, it's included, it's inclusive. And so you bring that into the table, that validation of another person's truth, of everybody's truth, so you can actually bring it to the table and talk about it. And that includes people who have hardcore beliefs around race, people who are kind of wishy-washy about it, and people who are on the extreme other side of, they want to completely abolish racism and any kind of acknowledgement of race at all in the constructs that we've built them. And once you move from that space of validation, you can move into an observation space and observe everything around you. And when you observe all of that stuff, you can invite people in to collaborate with you on reprogramming your nervous system, reprogramming your life, reprogramming all of those things into a paradigm that actually functions for you. So that's where I am with the program that I'm working with. And so, it's really all about inclusivity. And if you don't know that you've been excluding people all your life, how do you know what inclusivity looks like? We talk a lot about diversity. There's diversity here, and we want to have diversity. Diversity is knocking my mic over, man. Diversity is an acknowledgement of differences, right? There's difference, everything is diverse from me, right? Everything is diverse from you, the person who's listening to me or watching me. Everything is diverse from you, right? So when we have diversity, it's awesome to see the differences in things. But when you make diversity about exclusion, that's where it becomes really, really problematic when we're talking about having an inclusive society of human beings. So learning how to include people in your dialogue, learning what languaging actually causes people to perceive themselves being excluded from something because that may be how they've been treated all their lives. And when we look at the United States of America in particular, because I live here, white supremacy is the overarching type of racism. There are different types of racism. Yes, there are different types of racism. The main one that we see in the United States is a white supremacist type of racism, where whiteness is the supreme over all things, and it is the trickle down from which all other things diverge, right? Everything else is divergent or diverse from whiteness. And this is where the white privilege comes from and all of that stuff that people are talking about all over the internet. So I hope that answers, gives a little bit of context to what you asked.
So just briefly explain why you decided to create this program. I know you kind of talked about people reaching out to you. Obviously, we're one set of those people really trying to navigate this new landscape and this new human evolution. It's like you said a little while ago, I think there's a lot of us that may not have practiced and been a racist, but the fact that we have kind of been indifferent to it because it wasn't, we weren't being affected by it, or we weren't having, direct impact because it wasn't happening to us, or it wasn't happening to somebody really close to us, like, on an ongoing basis. So it's something we hear about, and it's kind of that whole thought process around, oh, well, that happens to other people. That doesn't really happen. I know I had that premise around, when before Brittany died was, anytime a parent lost their child, it was this whole, oh, I feel so horrible for them. I'm so glad that's not happening to me. Well, and then it did. And so the thing is that when we bring our awareness to it, and then we start actually making strides to move towards working on anti-racism and working towards supporting our brothers and sisters. And so can you talk a little bit about that and why you decided to create this and share this?
Sure. So there are a few reasons why I decided to create this. One is because of the amount of people that reached out to me. It's crazy. I have a lot of friends all over the world of different ethnicities, races, genders, gender identities, sexes that are reaching out to me right now because they don't know how to navigate this space. And so I also have, again, I mentioned earlier the tone of my skin, and me being a Black person with light skin, I have a benefit. And so when you look at racism, we all operate in a system that has racism in it, right? Racism is woven into it. So you have people that would be a very covert racist who hides, right? Who does their stuff on the DL. You have an overt racist who speaks openly about their loathing of other races, or how they want to oppress other people. Then you have people who benefit from racism who aren't necessarily a hardcore racist. And then you have people who are oblivious in the end. I have no idea. I didn't know I was performing in the system. I didn't know about this, and I didn't read these books, and nobody ever told me this stuff, yet you're still performing in it. And then you have a person like me who actually benefits from my light skin, because white people and people of other races that are not darker will lean into me, okay? So that they'll lean into me to get information because I'm not as threatening, because there's a stigma that happens around darker skinned people with white folks, that there is a separation situation. So I am closer to white as far as my appearance goes. So white people find it easier to lean into me. And this is just something that I've known all my life. As a kid, I would get into places and I would have my darker skinned friends wait around the corner. I would get into places and then I would get them access because I was the lighter person. This has been my entire life. And I find that right now I'm in a very opportune space to help all people by being able to be that bridge between white people and Black folks. And it's been a really, it's an opportune space for me to have that happen and to be able to show white people, because there are a lot of Black folks that don't want to talk to white people right now. They don't want to hear about it. And I don't blame other Black folks. And I've never been that way. I've always been an all-inclusive person. So I don't care who it is that wants to join this program, Rated R. And there are some people that are not white that are joining this program, and that's awesome. However, this was designed for white folks because of the way white people tend to lean into me. And so being able to have that benefit, being able to have that ease of feeling so that people's nervous systems can actually ease into a space where they feel safe, then they can actually hear a dialogue. If your nervous system is in a space where you're feeling threatened or you're trying to perform, hey, I'm trying to be the cool white guy to, what rap records did you listen to? That can cause more issues. There's a lot of awkwardness and that type of stuff. White people tend to lean into me a lot easier. It's just a phenomenon that I've observed, and it's something that I've been leaning into. So awesome. That is why. Mm-hmm.
Well, so Tah is actually going to be working with Paleo Effects and our team over the next 12 months on this, because this is actually something that is really important to us. I know a lot of you may have caught Keith's post a couple of months ago. There was a lot of upset, and definitely understandably so, because it was very, Keith is definitely a very literary writer, so he's a lot more abstract in his thought processes and the way that he writes. He's won quite a number of writing awards where people have likened his writing to Cormac McCarthy, which is very literary. And I think that lends itself to misunderstanding for sure. And, that is definitely, that's just how things ended up. And so for us, coming across that way, or believing that there was, that we had actually any type of racist tendencies was really very confronting for us. And that's definitely not our hearts. So when we started talking to Tah through all of this, and the fact that he was going to do this program, we're going to be working with him, with our team for the next year. This is a great thing for you to be able to, your program can also be working with teams as well as individuals. You want to kind of speak to both of those sides and how that would work for each?
Yeah, sure. So working with an individual is really getting you into a space where you understand how your nervous system has been built, how racism has been built into your nervous system. I know how it's been built into mine. I know how it operates. And I still find nuances of things. I'm married to a white woman, and she's beautiful and she's awesome, but I still have a lot of stuff around not being able to speak a certain way. Like if I'm in my house and some 90s hip hop and some Dr. Dre comes on and the N-word comes on, there'll be times where I'll be like, should I say this in front of her, or what will she think? And all of these things come up, and that's actually racism moving through me, where I can't speak myself. I have to hush myself. I have to protect her whiteness from the calamity that has happened in the past for Black people that would bring this type of language up. It's a very complicated dynamic that comes through me that actually moves to control me. And so I observe all of this stuff. And so being in a space where you can observe this, you can actually make the shifts. And I can actually talk to Cole about it out loud and be like, hey, listen, I want to navigate this and I want to feel comfortable in this space without having to edit myself. How are you feeling about that? Are you cool? Are you on board? And I can actually bring another person in to support me in my family space, in my home space. And this is something that we've been working with people one-on-one on. And what we're moving into is working with businesses, teams, small businesses on their, and bigger companies too, on their languaging, and not just saying things to not appear racist, not just saying things to not be slain by people who would be finger pointing and doing witch hunts and that type of stuff, but actually getting into a space where you recognize the dynamic that is actually defeating other people And in removing those dynamics from your business situations, from your business practices, from your languaging around your social media, your languaging around your advertising, your languaging around your email broadcasts, because there are certain words that come up that people will just not think that it has any racial connotation because it doesn't affect them that way. And it's like the word minority, right? The word minority connotates that there are people who are in minority, and those people over there. So it's like, I want to help all my minority friends. It's bringing in that language that's calling somebody something other and less than, and it puts them in the corner. It doesn't include them. It's not like, all of my friends of broad expanses of cultural demographics are welcome here, and we'd like to include all of that. There's a difference between that and saying, hey, my minority people are in trouble. It's like there are particular people who are being oppressed right now. Can we look at those people? Or there are different types of people that are being oppressed. So it's being able to bring that kind of languaging into your business, being able to understand what is making that dysfunctional for other people, and having a sensitivity to it that you start to move into your nervous system because you actually want it there. Not just because you want your business to thrive, not just because you want people to leave you alone and not bother you, but because you authentically are looking to connect. We are looking to connect with people with this program who are really, really heart-centered people who are really looking to expand this world beyond these old paradigms of racism and exclusion that have been running the planet now. And it's not just about race. It's about racism, sexism, capitalism, fascism. It's about all these isms that are causing people to be separate and not integrated, and causing people to be oppressed and belittled and not included. So this is what we're working with people with these companies and their teams, is to really start to understand how inclusivity works, really start to pull that in to when you're onboarding people in your company. Is there a sensitivity situation? Is there a dialogue that happens? Do you ask people where they're from? Let's talk about where you're from, what your upbringing was like. Do you have any fears around any other races? Have you been subjected to some bias attacks or anything like that, whether it be your race, your gender, or anything else in your physical capabilities? Are you in a wheelchair? All these things are included. And so it's not just about racism, it's about really including all people, and racism being the thing that's really out there right now. This is a way that we're bringing people in to see that inclusivity on all levels is really, really important.
Yeah. And, I'm glad that you brought up just a minute ago, because this is one thing that I know particularly a lot of white people have struggled with, is the fact that the N-word is used so much in Black culture, in music, rap, all of those things. And it's very confusing and very confronting. I know that whenever I hear it, my entire body kind of seizes up and what have you. I grew up here in the South, and that word was used very liberally when I was younger, when I was a kid. And then it obviously became very taboo. You don't say that word, you don't use that word, all of those things. So it's now I find my entire body, and I watch my entire physiology and my central nervous system kind of seize up a little bit whenever I hear the word, even if it's in music and it's in those. So can you kind of talk a little bit about that, and how do you handle that as a white person, listening to that and knowing that it's all confusing?
Okay. So the thing is, hip hop music, and me being a hip hop artist, because I traveled around the world touring, doing hip hop music. Hip hop music started from a space of people gaining empowerment for themselves by creating their own music. I'm not sure if you know about Kool Herc bringing it from Jamaica to the Bronx, and creating a whole situation with turntables and MCing and stuff. It was really a place where people were empowered by taking their own skills and telling their own stories about things. And the N word in hip hop music is a space of people taking something that was an oppressive situation, flipping it on its head and making it a term of endearment that was used amongst each other. Now, the way I grew up, we used to throw the N-word back and forth, and a lot of my friends still do throw the N-word back and forth like it ain't no thing. It just became a part of the community, and it was one of the only things that we could hold on to as Black people that white people didn't have, is that we had the power to call each other that, and white people did not. If you were white and you called a Black person that was the cause to get punched in your face. And that's something that I got into fights with people over. Don't be white and call me that, because it means something different. And so really getting to the root of understanding that there are certain things you just don't touch. You know, you don't go calling, Jewish people Jewish slurs. You don't call Latin people Latin slurs, and you don't, this is not something that you do. And so I don't hear white people calling each other the C word, right? Cracker. I don't hear that. I don't hear white people calling each other that. I don't. And so I don't walk around calling white people that, and if white people did call each other that, that'd be on white people. I'm still not walking around calling white people that. And so this is a thing that Black people have taken and this is my perspective, and everything that you hear out of my mouth is my perspective. I am not speaking for all people that associate as Black, people of color, Negroes, African Americans, whatever we are being called these days. I am not speaking for all. I'm speaking for myself. And the N word was used as a term of endearment that we flipped around, and it was playful at times, and then at other times it was used for attack, and it was a recognition thing, and it was just like, yo man, hey man, everybody uses man, homie, that type of stuff, but the N word is specifically for Black people. It was a term of endearment. It was a term of empowerment that I don't use anymore. I used to use it when I was a kid. I do not use it in my language, and that's that. And so I know where it comes from and the way it makes my body feel. Even when I was a kid, when people would call it to me, it was something about it that just didn't feel really deeply connected. So this is why I advise white people to leave that completely off the table. Leave it out of your music. Leave it out of your language, because when you use that with Black people, you're going to get some pushback, and you may get punched in your face. That is something that I can't save you from. So be mindful of that. And there are certain things that certain lines that I do not recommend crossing, and that's one of them. Is a very unique, very special situation. Just like the African slave trade was a very unique, very special situation. If you were to look at all the Holocaust people and all the stuff that they were called, if you call them outside of Jewish people or whatever they choose to be called, you're gonna get some pushback. You may get punched in your face for that too. So it's something that I really highly recommend people lean away from utilizing racial slurs of any sort at a convenience basis because other people are doing it. It goes back to that same thing. If somebody told you, if I jumped off a bridge and I told you to jump off a bridge, would you do it? No. So it's a very delicate space, and that's something that I recommend people really leave alone as far as speaking. But if you want to ask people, hey man, listen, I'm all about being in a space where we can ask each other questions. And this is something that I find that I've had. And if you're watching this and you're a white person and you have some stuff going on, or you associate as being white and you have some stuff going on in your nervous system and you want to ask Black people stuff, just be honest, man. Hey, listen, I want to ask something I'm really curious about. I'm really nervous that you're going to turn me away or you're not going to want to talk about this. But I'd like to know if it's okay if I put something out there, because it's something that I don't know about and I'd like to get educated on. And so I'd like to be educated on your perspective, if that's cool. And if they say no, leave it alone. Cool, thanks, man. I appreciate you honoring that question, and I'll leave it alone. Let's go get some lunch. Whatever it is, just leave it alone. Let people talk about it when they're in a space to talk about it. I have not met one Black person I have not met one white person that I've told to approach a Black person in this way that has done it and they've been turned away. Just ask people, disarm people. I'm always about disarming, and this is one of the things that we teach in this program, is how to disarm people with your inquisitiveness. How do you disarm people? How do you take away the anger? How do you take away the threat? Hey, listen, I have some stuff that I'm feeling awkward about. I'm a white person. you have darker skin than me, and I'd like to ask you some questions about some stuff if you're open to it, because I'm looking to be educated. I'm looking to dismantle all this stuff that's going on in the background. And so when people can lean into that type of stuff, it's really amazing. And so I would lean away from the N word. I hope that helps with what I'm talking about. I mean, we can go on for hours about that whole paradigm and talk about it. And it's a very uncomfortable place. I did Mike Dillard's podcast, and I did my webinar on racism on June 30th, and I invited people to do what I call the N test. It's the N test, like the N word, and it's take off all your clothes and stand in front of the mirror and just say the N word out loud in your full voice and see what your face does. Does it do this? Does it do this? What does it do? What does your body do? How do you feel, right? Do you feel scared? Do you feel angry? Do you feel nervous? Do you feel judged? What do you feel? And the feeling that you have as you say this word in the mirror is part of the racism dynamics in the world that have been built into your body. And it's built into all of us. And if you're apathetic, apathy is a part of being built into a system of racism as well. It's something that I encourage people to do. It doesn't cost you anything to stand in front of the mirror naked and look at yourself and say that word, or just look in the mirror if you're afraid of being naked with yourself. Just look in the mirror and say it out loud. Hey, some people are. Just say it out loud. See how it feels. I mean, just think about it right now. Just think about saying it out loud. Think about saying it out loud in front of your white friends, right? It's a joke, ha ha ha, right? And then think about saying it in a courtroom. Think about saying it in front of black people in the hood, right? Think about saying it in black people in a corporate situation. What would your body feel like, right? And if you believe that there's no racism, if you believe that racism doesn't exist, it'll exist real quick as soon as you say it in those spaces. So you and I'm speaking to the people, to the white people out there, you are in a system that has been founded in racism. And if you cannot see it, you can feel it. It is there. And just to be able to acknowledge that it is there, it doesn't mean that you have to be participating in it full on. It doesn't mean that you have to be in the KKK or you're out going and lynching people. That doesn't mean that's where you are. But racism is a system that we are all performing in. I am, and all of you are. And so where is your position? Are you a person that's not doing anything about it? Are you a person that's doing something about it? Are you a person who's a victim of it? Are you a person who is the assailant in it? Are you a person who is the oppressed or the oppressor? Are you a beneficiary? Are you a shill? What are you? And you can look at all of these different things and see where your position is and just accept it. And once you accept it, do you want to change it or do you want to continue to participate where you are? It's just like Americanism. I participate in Americanism every day. I walk around with American privilege, and that is a real thing. I have a privilege. When most countries, when I go with my passport to another country, when I was traveling as a musician, I had all kinds of privileges that I didn't have, that I don't have, that other people don't have because I have an American passport. There is Americanism that I participate in, and there's a kind of a chip on the shoulder that American people have when they travel around. It's Americanism. You are participating. It doesn't mean you're an Americanist. It doesn't mean that you're all involved in the political structure and all of that other stuff. But you are still participating in Americanism. Racism is the same way. Most of us are participating in it, whether it's a place of awareness or a place of oblivion. So.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. One of the things that you had mentioned was the when we talk about like particularly like minority, and you and I had this conversation previously, and it was it's something that I had no awareness around, and have been gaining that awareness and having Tah actually consult with me and actually work through some of these things with me. One of the things that I was kind of had an idea around was that when we talk about a lot of these things, where racism kind of comes from, or it feels like to me, and I'd like your perspective on this, is that it's that idea of that there is other, that we are separate, that we are somehow not connected, that we are somehow not the same, that we are not, and I love this because he put this, Frank put this here a little while ago, and it said, we are all 99.5% the same genetically, and we are. And so the thing is that I'd love to get your thoughts around those things, because you and I have talked about a lot on an ongoing basis, because we work with Tah and Cole on a lot of different, not just through Paleo Effects, but on a lot of different projects and everything. And we talk also about the polarity. And the thing is that, and I was having an interview, maybe it was yesterday, I don't remember, someday this week. Anyway, I had an interview, and one of the things I said is that we all want to believe that we are here, that this is what we hold. We hold all the good stuff. We are kind, we are loving, we are all of these things. And then there's this stuff over here, that's the racism, the stuff everybody's hearing, seeing, whatever, the fascism, the pedophilia, all of this stuff. So we've got the dark and the light, the good and the evil. And somehow we think those are separate from us.
Right.
And all of it belongs to each of us.
Right. I agree. And I'm in a space where I believe, so I say I love you all the time to people. And people are like, how could you love this person? How could you love that person? How could you love, the president? How could you love Hitler? I love every human being, because the word love to me means two letters, am, A-M. I am. When I say I love you, I am saying I am you. And every human being on this planet is a reflection of me. I am a reflection of them. If there is something dysfunctional on this planet, I am in that dysfunction. Okay, this particular part of me may not be fully in that dysfunctional space, but as a human race, we have lots of dysfunction that's going on. Okay, and we have a lot of function, a lot of high functioning awesomeness. I am also part of that. So to disassociate myself, again, breeds exclusivity. And I'm about inclusivity. I am about inclusion. And that's why I said before, diversity is great. It's recognizing the different parts of the whole. But when you bring them all together, it's still the whole. We are still the whole planet together. We are still the whole human race together. The idea that we are separate is an idea. It's how this started back with tribalism, and that's where racism got its roots, in tribalism of people separating themselves off. You had the people that lived down by the river, you had the people that lived in the mountains, you had the people that lived in the forest, right? And everybody ate differently, so their bodies grew differently. All these different things happened, and people started to separate themselves based on their demographics, based on where they lived, what they ate, the gods that they worshipped, and all of these things. And this is how we started to separate each other. And racism, as any other separation tactic, is a means of power. It gives power to one section of people and takes power from another section of people. And this is oppression in and of itself, is the creation of separation. Somebody needs to be oppressed in order for somebody to have the upper hand. When we all have everything, then there's no need for anybody to have the upper hand or to be oppressed. These are all ideas. And when you look at racism and when you look at Christianity, in order for racism to be used, in order for the slave trade to be the way it was, Christianity racism had to come into play to say that African people, that Black people, were subhuman in order for because Christianity does not accept slavery. It does not accept slavery of other human beings. However, when you make Black people subhuman, then it's okay, right? So all of this stuff made things all right for the slave trade to happen. And so this just created more separation, and it caused people to be on these different tiers, these different echelons, these different spaces of hierarchy. And this causes separation in human beings. There is no difference. And just like Frank was saying, and thank you for that, Frank, most of our DNA is the same. There's very small fractions of our DNA that are different, that give us these different things. Because I have a different skin tone or a different hair texture does not make me any more or any less than any other human being on this planet. Because I have a penis and someone else has a vagina, it does not mean someone is any more or any less than someone else. These are ideas that we have been giving to cause oppression and to cause power and to cause a power shift. And who knows why people did it? It could have been somebody hurt in a tribe somewhere that they felt hurt and undervalued. So they created some system to get back at everybody. And, hurt people do really hurt things, and they do really, really big hurt things. And they hurt a lot of people in that regard. I think is that thunder outside?
Yes. That's great.
That's crazy. So these are things as far as the separation situation. And that's why I'm always talking about inclusivity. And that's what this is all about. This rated R thing is, have you been racist? Have you now been excluded, right? Have you, right? See, because racism excludes, and now when you're being rated R, you are still being and this is the system of racism creating yet another dynamic for somebody else to be excluded. And this is why I do not exclude anybody. And that includes people who have a racist dialogue. I want to hear about it. I want to hear about it. I want to feel all the feels. I want to be called the N-word by the most angry, angry racist white person. Tell me. Cool. Hey man, I get it. Tell me why you're calling me that. Would you be able to share that with me? And let's have dinner and talk about it. I'm down. Let's talk about it. Because until I can get another person's nervous system to calm down, if they are angry and they're feeling threatened, they're not going to be able to hear anything. So let's sit down and eat. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. I'd love to hear it. And even if you don't change your mind, even if you don't, and I'm not looking to change another person's mind, I'm actually looking to explore with a person and actually have them see me as a human being. And maybe in ways they haven't been capable of seeing other human beings in the past. And when they see that, they can make their own choices. And again, this is about sovereignty. And when you point fingers at people and you tell them what they are, you are actually moving into a space where they perceive that they do not have sovereignty over their being and how they're being perceived. And that is problematic in and of itself. So when we get into this space of really recognizing sovereignty, really recognizing the connection and inclusivity, that's when all the magic really can happen on this planet. And that's what I'm moving into. I love people, just like you said, Michelle, I love people with a fervor I can't explain in words, and I don't want to explain. I want to show you. I want to show you that I am all people. All people are me. When I look at my genetic makeup, right? It's like I think it's like 46% is Western African, and then like 2% is Nigerian, and all this other stuff. And then I have some European in my blood, and there's all this stuff in me. I represent so much of the world in my body, and we all do. And I encourage anybody to go do your genetics and see what whoever created these genetics tests, wherever they got their metrics from, whoever got that shit. And it's interesting, right? It's interesting. And to see how much we represent all of the world, and our cultures and the foods we eat and all of the things we breathe in are all inclusive. And once we start to see that, I think that's where the magic begins. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. And actually, Frank kind of had another question here. I do not think we all realize or appreciate that we emanated from a very close-knit origin. As a species, we have developed into tribes. Tribes develop their own view and biases to their own and outside their tribe. Different tribes competed for food, things, and territories. Have you noticed people just do not know enough about their history and origin? It's funny that we were actually talking about that.
I do not think that people know very much about their origin. And again, it's kind of hard to trust the history books in the world because history has been so manipulated. It's his story, right? And it's the story that's been fed to us and is being fed to us. So I always take everything with a grain of salt, including my own history, because I couldn't tell you how my day went exactly yesterday. That's why I journal so much, because I keep tabs on myself, right? Like if you could tell me the exact rundown of the last year of your life, right, in great detail, then I believe you when you tell me the history of whatever country or why, or whatever people do, whatever they do. We don't really know. History is in the past, and what are we writing now? What are we creating? How are we writing the now? And I'm the research is awesome, man. I've done a lot of research into race. I've done a lot of research into the slave trade. I've done a lot of research into racism and all kinds of stuff. I've watched videos and documentaries. I've read books. I've read articles and magazines. I've read all this stuff because I'm curious. And the thing that really gives me the most insight is when I have conversations with other human beings. They get to tell me how they feel. They get to tell me their stories and what their grandparents told them, or however they perceive the story that their grandparents told them or their parents told them. That's where the interactivity comes from. That's the real entertainment to me, is to really get into a space where I can see what another person's perceiving, where, at least as much as I possibly can. I can never see through another person's eyes, but to be able to get a frame from another person and let them frame it for you. Tell me your frame. I don't think you're wrong. I think that that's your truth. And all truth is relative. The only absolute truth is that all truth is relative. And I'm about it. Tell me about your truth, man. Let's have it. And explain to me why this is making you feel this way. And so when we swing this back around to the whole rated R thing, you know, when somebody's rating you R, when somebody's rating you a racist, what is driving that? Can you have the conversation? Hey, you know what? Thanks for pointing that out to me. I appreciate that. The fault that people are going to is, I'm not a racist, you're a racist, or who do you think you are calling me a racist? I'm not a racist. And then people just completely shut down and hide. And then the dialogue doesn't happen. And then people are hiding, people are now in fight or flight, and then it becomes a dis-ease situation in the body. And so in the body, in the relationships, in the business, all of these things start to happen. So it all swings back around to the same thing. Are we able to recognize these things in each other? And are we able to do the research on ourselves and other people? So yeah, Frank, thanks again, bro.
Yeah. And this is one too, of course, because this one comes up, of course, a lot. Dialogue, exactly the same as when some, not all people say all lives matter. They aren't saying that against Black Lives Matter. They were saying that there should be no difference. A life should be a life. A gentle explanation of why all lives matter can be taken offensively works, but instead of trying to understand where someone is coming from, people get jumped on and called racist.
Yes, and I completely get that vantage point. And I've had this conversation with a lot of people who have come to me and said things like all lives matter, who have also been in the same space to say, I don't see color. And I get it. And I understand why you say all lives matter, because all lives do matter. And the thing with this whole Black Lives Matter movement is that's going on right now is that Black people are just saying, hey, our lives matter. Can we be included in the all? Right? Can that be an acknowledgement that Black lives actually do matter? Because I'm gonna be straight up. In my experience, Black lives have not always mattered, and my Black life has not always mattered. And so, if you wanna have a dialogue about that, we can. And it may give me, and you may get some charge out of my body. I mean, I can feel it in my voice as I'm speaking about this, because my life has been one of those lives that didn't matter in the past, and who knows right now if it matters to some people. All Black people are saying with this is that yes, all lives do matter, and can we have an acknowledgement that and it's like Black people are not asking to be, hey, I want to be considered a millionaire, I want to be considered the best. No, it's just you just want to matter, to just simply matter, and then to nullify Black people by saying, hey, no, all lives matter, again pushes Black people into this space, or any other people other than white people, into this space of just fading into the ether. Let's just erase that. Listen, this country has been built. The United States of America is built on the backs of Black people, and the acknowledgement still isn't there. It's still not being acknowledged. Yeah, well, the slave trade happened so long ago. Can you just acknowledge that the country's been built on the backs of Black people? Can you just say that? Do we matter that much? Why do we have to have Black History Month? Why can't we have History Month? Right? Why do we have to have something like Black History Month? Because we have this minority space. We have February. Thanks, the shortest month of the year. Thanks a lot, y'all. You know, it's come the fuck on, man. I mean, really, the shortest month of the year is Black History Month. Okay, I'm gonna keep it moving from there. So just I do understand, and I've talked to white people, and it makes plenty of sense to me when, hey, listen. Why should Black people be special? I don't think Black people should be special. I don't think white people should be special. I think all of our lives do matter. How about, can we just acknowledge right now that with all that's going on, as we start to move into this integration of all races, that Black lives matter enough to be integrated, not to be the minority and just to be coddled. We are integrated. We are part of that matter. If Black people are part of matter, then let's integrate into the matter. Let us matter. And I think that's a very important thing. So at least I really appreciate you bringing that up. And I do not think that, not from my vantage point, I would never call a white person a racist for saying, hey, all lives matter. I would never call a white person a racist for saying, hey, listen, I don't see color. I'd say, hey, listen, that's an interesting vantage point. You want to hear some perspective on that? And then I'd bring in, okay, cool. Would you look at me? Do you see the complexion of my skin? Well, yeah, of course I do. Then you see color. You see color. Maybe you don't see, maybe you do your best not to discriminate as far as opportunity goes or whatever, but you do see color. So please acknowledge my skin color, right? There are some people whose skin, like, man, I've seen, like, my grandson is the darkest shade of beautiful chocolate, and I love looking at his skin. And we talk about his skin all the time. Man, how'd your complexion get so even, bro? It's beautiful. And to sit here and celebrate another person's skin color is awesome. It doesn't make you a racist. Hey, man, yeah, your skin's beautiful. Oh, it's racist. You know, I hear that type of stuff all the time. But the acknowledgement that that these dialogues are there without calling somebody a racist, without putting a diagnosis on somebody, I feel is very, very important. Because when we do that, we cause the shame cycle to activate. People hide, people defend themselves, and then the dialogue doesn't actually happen. And we can't dissipate this stuff and really integrate the human race.
Amen. I like that. So I'm going to ask you, what advice would you give to someone, just one thing they can do, they can make change immediately to become more diverse and inclusive as a human being?
Yeah, there's one thing that you can do, and that is give from your heart, give your attention, give your consideration, give your curiosity to all people, not just as a favor to Black people, not just as a favor to Latin people, Asian people, not just as a favor to LGBTQ, not just as a favor, but because you are genuinely interested in people. The bigotry that's happening in the world is stopping people from really connecting because of oppression. And when you oppress somebody, you cannot connect with them. So give your attention, and give your curiosity, and give your consideration to other human beings, and just see what happens. And give that same stuff to yourself. You may not have given it to yourself. And that's the opening point where awareness starts to happen. Once you have awareness of yourself, everything can shift. But when you are in a space of oblivion because you've been programmed that way, then nothing is going to change, because you are physiologically programmed into it.
Agreed. So I'm glad that you brought up LGBTQ, because, you know, we're also, there's, you know, for long periods of time, and particularly in American history, you know, many women have been suppressed. So we've got the sexism, but the sexism doesn't just go towards women. It goes towards our LGBTQ community as well. And so this is one of the things that I think I've had struggled. I was been Christian most of my life, and became a Catholic, and then left the Catholic Church. And so the ideas, I have really struggled with the ideas around, one of my best friends was gay, and he passed away. And I really struggled with the idea that because he was gay, he was not going to go to heaven. He had the ultimate sin and all of those things. And so I really struggled with that, and had a really hard time around that concept. Like, why would God just like condemn, like, because I believe every person is designed and created. So if I believe that God designed and created them, then he didn't make any mistakes there. So then if he created somebody to be, and they are gay or lesbian or LGBTQ, if they're any of those things, then this person is not a mistake, which is a lot. I hear that word a lot, which is just, and that makes my whole central nervous system light up. But it's this whole idea around, I'm not real sure at what point we, at humans, believed that we had the authority to tell anyone else how to live their life, but also who they're supposed to love or who they're not supposed to love.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, with that whole situation, it's really interesting that people on this planet, from my observation space, I grew up as a Catholic. I went to Catholic school for 12 years. And, you know, the idea that people have that their God, who's all powerful and ever creative, is fallible in the first place, would create something that's fallible in the first place, is a joke to me. This is why I got thrown out of all of my religion classes. I had such a hard time in school with religion, because I would ask, if God was perfect and didn't make mistakes and created everything perfectly, then what is wrong with any of us? And what, in fact, separates us from being God? If we are a creation of God, then we are part of God. So then we are perfect in and of ourselves. We are perfect just the way we are. These ideas and this is my belief. This is my core belief inside myself. We are all part of the creative essence of the universe, of the galaxy, of whatever you want to call this that we live in. And to put on somebody that they would go to hell is because of who they are and how they are, is using that person as an example to control another person's behavior so that they don't act a certain way, so that they don't show their gayness, or they don't show their blackness, or they don't show their whateverness, so that other people will be satiated. And so that again causes dysfunction and dis-ease in the body, right? Because you're presented, right? If I tell you that this is the way you must sit in order for people to like you and buy your stuff, you'd be really uncomfortable after a while of performing like that. It's uncomfortable. So these presentations have been created and crafted into religion. And so when you take a religious structure like Christianity, right, or many of the sects of Christianity, Christianity was based off of the teachings of Jesus Christ, if that dude was even a person, right? And I'm going to get slain for saying that, right? I have no idea. The history books tell me, and the Bible tells me Jesus was there. So I have to believe that, right? Or I don't. But his writings and his speakings, well, not his writings, his speakings, his talks were so alluring that the words were really, really captivating to people. And so there are people who want to manipulate and take the words of Christ and the words from the Bible, and they use it to their manipulation point, and then they put it on shame on people. But this is what Jesus really meant. So if you don't do this, you're going to go to hell. So perform this way, the way that I want you to perform. And so this has been a part of our society with all of the religions on our planet. Most of them have been utilized for manipulation and control of people. Our governments do it, our religions do it, our families do it. I recently had a conversation. My daughter was here this weekend with my two grandsons. Yes, I'm a grandfather, right? And so that's a whole other thing. Is that Tah's a grandfather? No, how could he be a grandfather? And so I asked my grandsons to call me by my name. I don't want you to call me grandpa. I want you to call me Tah. Because there's a stigma that I've associated with grandfather. There's a stigma that they've associated with grandfather that they put on me and I put on myself. It doesn't allow me to be myself. It doesn't allow me to relax. And so when religions put stigmas on people like this, when race situations put stigmas on people, when gender roles get put on people, it causes a dysfunction in the body because a person is presenting all the time. And it causes a dysfunction because the presentation is being pushed from the outside and from the inside. And it doesn't always match up, and it can be a really dysfunctional situation. Sexism is a nightmarish situation that's built into all of our things, including racism, including white supremacy, including fascism, including Christianity. All of these things, sexism is built into to oppress women, and it's been a nightmare for a long time. You still there? Am I frozen? Are you frozen? Shit. Are you still there? Am I still there? Are we frozen? Michelle? I think you're frozen. Yeah. I don't know, y'all. Is Michelle still there? Oh, Michelle's frozen. Okay, it's not just Michelle. It's not me. It's Michelle. All right. So I hope that is I hope my insight is lighting some people up, some ideas, or maybe some dialogue to talk about. Let me know. Clone glitch. Okay. Yeah. So if there's any questions that y'all would like to ask me as Michelle comes back in, I got it. If there's any questions, thank you. If there's any questions that anybody would like to ask me while we wait for Michelle to jump back on, let me know. I'd love to talk to you. And thank y'all for tuning in. And thank you for jumping in on this and being part of this dialogue. I'm going to look at Elisa's thing here. All of God's children means all of God's children, not just the ones that act like you do. That opens up some people, shuts others down. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Frank. I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate y'all jumping in and jumping on and watching this and being a part of our expansion as human beings and our growth as human beings. Um, I'm so honored to be here with y'all. And if there's anything that I can do to support, I would really encourage you to feel free to reach out. And while we're waiting for Michelle to come back, I'm not sure what's going to happen. If anybody's interested in joining that Rated R program, you can go to tahkole.com. It's TAHKOLE.com / PFX. P as in Perry, F as in Frank, X as in X-ray, PFX, tahkole.com, PFX. Grand Tah. Yeah, we did the Grand Tah thing, and yeah, it was a joke, but I just want to be called Tah. That's who I am. And so yeah, so let's get back into that whole situation about my grandkids. Um, they call me Tah, and to remove the programming around. Thank you, Melissa, for putting that there. I appreciate you. To remove that whole stigma around me being called grandfather is really important. We program and this is one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and one of the things we do talk about in Rated R is the programming that we receive as human beings into our childhood. From the moment a person is born, we start mommy, daddy, baby, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, grandma. We start programming people into these spaces where they actually start to stigmatize each other based on these roles and these identities. When we put pink on a girl and blue on a boy, we stigmatize them. We don't allow them to make choices or have any kind of sovereignty over what they like. We tell them what they like and what they need to like. And that boys play with trucks and girls play with dolls. Girls push strollers and boys play with dump trucks. And it's really, these are things that get built into us. And when we're doing all of that, we build in sexism, and we build in racism and the ideas that people are different and that people are separate. We don't build in the inclusivity. We build in the exclusivity, and we do build in diversity. Diversity is always there. We always know things are different, right? We always know. When you look at a person's skin tone, you see that they're different. When you look at a person and you hear a person's voice, you can see that they're different than you are, right? And that you're the divergent point. And so when we see that people are built into these systems this way, we can actually start to see how we've been built into it and actually dismantle it. Did you want to say something?
They lost power.
Oh, okay.
So they closed it
down. So Keith and Michelle lost power in their house. I was saying that there's an electrical storm here, and Cole just came in and told me that Keith and Michelle lost power. So yeah, so I guess I'll leave it there. So thank you all so much for tuning in and for jumping in and on. Feel free to check me out. Again, if you're interested in Rated R, let's get on a call. Go to tahkole.com. It's in the comments. It's TAHKOLE.com / PFX. And schedule a call with me. Let's talk about where you are. If you've been rated R, if you've been rated as a racist, or if you're afraid of being rated as a racist, and you'd like to really talk and get some help, some guidance with this, we're going to be doing a 12-month program where we work together closely to help you and your people and your team to really dial in on this and get it together. So thank you so much for your time. Check me and Cole out on our Instagram page at Tah Cole. And I love you and thank you all so very much. Have an amazing weekend and be free.